All right, I'm going to be going over the winning trade that I took in Asia session today. Here is the execution in my Discord. If you want to join the free Discord, link in description of this video. Amazing community in there, very nice people. And let's just get straight into it. So let me go to the Asia Open right here. All right, so what do we look like before Asia and how do I trade Asia? So how do I trade Asia is I pretty much just look for not an extremely significant draw on liquidity. So let me compare. What did we have today? Well, we had these equal lows on the daily time frame. So that's not going to be my DOL. What I look for is I look for some sort of DOL that is relatively close to the 8 p.m. open, the Asia session open, and I look to just trade towards that, not trade to it, like not for price to hit it, but I trade in that direction because that's what I've seen in my data that works a lot of times in Asia. Sometimes we just like end up edging these draws and we go nowhere. So I just target my one-to-one in Asia, get my piece of the pie and get out. So what was I thinking during Asia? There was two things I saw. At 8 p.m. open, we ended up opening this huge hourly gap right here, not on only NQ, but on ES at the same time too. What were we inside? Well, at 8 p.m. open, we were inside this huge hourly gap and we were around CE of that gap, right? So I was looking to see price trade lower. I was not looking for any sort of long because I wanted to target this gap. And if we did end up hitting this gap, I would just long off it towards the intermediate high higher. Now, let me go to the lower time frames. What do we have? Well, you can see at the 8 p.m. open, we have an abundance of low resistance leading up. So ideally, I just wanted to see the 8 p.m. open, sweep out all this low resistance, and then get some sort of short. You can see that's just not what happened at all. We actually opened low. We end up edging this hourly gap, moving higher. Like, yes, we were inside of this 30-minute gap, but my overall objective for Asia was to see this hourly gap get hit. So I just personally did not take this long here. This is a very good long. This is a very good 8 p.m. PO3 open high or open low high close 8:30 or 8 p.m. I mean, what do we see? Well, we see price distribute up and then start reaccumulating, which is a very good sign for the trade that I was looking to take, right? I was looking to take a short down to here. What did APM open do? Well, in my eyes, all it did was just generate more low resistance liquidity, right? We have this swing low here, and we have a bunch more swing lows down here leading up towards our hourly gap. That's something that you really do want to see when trading towards unmitigated imbalances. Just adds a ton of probability towards your trade. Now, this is really when I started to get interested in the idea of shorting towards that gap, right? Because what do we see? Well, we see NQ kind of just stay in this more premiumed range and keep accumulating. But if we look over at ES to the left, we see ES really distribute down and invalidate this entire opening range of Asia, right? What do we do on on ES? Well, we end up opening up a 5-minute gap. And this is something that was very important to my trade because this was going to be used as a condition sort of for my trade on NQ, if that makes sense. I was wanting to use ES, what ES was showing, to take a trade on NQ mostly, because what do we have on NQ? Well, we just have this big accumulation. E draws above R. We just have this hourly intermediate high, and we're just waiting for the 8:30 open, right? Because what do we want to see? Well, we have our accumulation. Now we want to have 8:30 open high, do our manipulation, and then we want our distribution after. So we're wanting an 8:30 open high low close down towards this 5-minute intermediate low, and ultimately to see this hourly gap get hit lower. But the reason I was so interested and so confident in the short is because if we look at ES, ES has an abundance of low resistance liquidity leading up towards its hourly gap, and it is extremely close to this hourly gap. So what I was thinking was, okay, this adds more probability to my trade because since ES is so close to the gap, I can take a trade in this premium and not have to target this entire gap. I can just target somewhere in this one-to-one. I can target this little swing low right here, this 5-minute intermediate low, and be out for the day, right? Because once one of these index hits my objective for Asia, then I don't have to see the other one hit it. Okay, so what do we have next? Well, we have our 8:30 open. 8:30 does what? 8:30 does exactly what I want it to do. It ends up coming up, sweeping out this intermediate high, putting in this bearish SMT with this high right here. If we look at ES, you can see this is the correlated high. It's actually equal highs on ES up here. So we end up putting in this bearish SMT. Now I want you to look at where ES is at this time. ES is inside of this sponsored 5-minute gap, and what it had just done, it just did the exact same thing that NQ did, right? It accumulated. We then had our 8:30 open high into this 5-minute gap, mitigating this 5-minute sponsored gap, and now we're projecting our low close, our distribution after this manipulation down towards all this lower resistance liquidity and the unmitigated hourly gap. Exact same thing on NQ, right? We have our accumulation, 8:30 opens high, puts in a bearish SMT on both indexes, and then we can get our distribution down towards all this low resistance and this intermediate low. What happens next? That is exactly what happens, right? We get a 30-second inversion, a clean 1-minute CISD right here. CISD, let me mark this out. Guys, I'm running out of breath. Like, oof. Oh my God. Right, let me put the short tool. So this is when I ended up entering after this candle closed. I ran my stop above this protected high after we swept out this intermediate high, and then we put in this bearish SMT. Price should not return back to this point, and if it does, I'm just completely wrong. What I did was I ended up just running a one-to-one. My original take profit was all the way down here, but then I ended up scaling out once ES hit the hourly gap because that is my objective, right? So going from here, what happens? Well, we go to my break-even point being this intermediate low. And from here, all I was looking to see was for price to go on a liquidity run on ES and hit that hourly gap. You can see ES ends up hitting the hourly gap in a few more candles right here. If we look at ES, it hits the hourly gap, go the hourly time frame, inside the hourly gap, right? So that was my objective hit for Asia. Once that was hit, I was just off, got my piece of the pie, got my one-to-one R. That's all I need for the day. This was definitely a great trade. If you took the long before, this was definitely valid too. This was an amazing Asia session, right? We had like AMD models perfectly formed for the 8 p.m. open and the 8:30 open. So pretty impressive for Asia PA. Great day.